In a famous psychology experiment, researchers forced a student to walk into a crowded party wearing a bright yellow shirt. That shirt had a singer's face on it, and the singer was not cool at the time. The student was terrified. He thought, everyone is going to laugh at me, they are going to judge me. But you know what actually happened? We will get to that in a moment, but if you've ever stopped yourself from doing something because you're worried about other people's opinions, you need to hear this episode. Welcome back to Healing with Psychology podcast. I'm Dr. Ketki, and on this podcast, we turn complex psychology concepts into simple, actionable tools that you can use every single day. In the last episode, we learned about the 5 tricks that your mind plays on you, like catastrophizing, personalization, etc. And today, in part 2, we are going to explore the rest. These are the ones that destroy your self esteem and make you care too much about what others think of you. So, number 6 on our list is mind reading. We walk into a room and think everyone is looking at me and talking about me. Remember that student in the yellow t shirt? That was a real study done in Cornell University. The student was wearing a shirt featuring a singer who was very uncool at that time, and the student predicted that 50% of the people in the room would notice his embarrassing shirt. Do you know what the real number was? It was less than 20%. Most people did not even see him. This is called the spotlight effect. We think there is a spotlight on us and everyone is judging our every move. But in reality, people are not thinking about you, they are thinking about themselves. Because of mind reading, you become self conscious and you stop enjoying the party. You assume that people dislike you without any proof. Another form of mind reading is when you try to explain things from the other person's point of view or perspective, like thinking they're mad at you even though there is no proof of that. So the other day, as I was checking WhatsApp statuses, I saw that my friend was in town, so I texted her that we should hang out together. I noticed that she saw the message, but she didn't reply to it the entire day. And I tried to make sense of that, thinking of all the possible explanations or reasons there might be for that. And that's where I went wrong. I tried to assume what was on her mind. Later on, she replied saying she was only there for a very short office trip and had to go back home immediately. Even though I know of all of these distortions or thinking mistakes, I still get trapped in it sometimes. Mostly because it comes from a place of self protection. When we care about someone, we are scared of losing them. So your brain goes into overprotection mode. It tries to predict rejection before it happens. You think that if I assume they're angry now, I will not be shocked later. But instead of protecting you, it creates a lot of confusion that wasn't even there in the first place. So, how do we stop this drama? The first solution to this that works really well for me is to think of this as minding my own business. What's on the other person's mind is none of my business. And if I had to assume something about another person, I've made it a rule for myself that I will only assume the best. If someone has a problem with me, they will say it to my face. This prevents me from a lot of unnecessary negative thinking and wasting my energy in it. And the second solution is to use the check in technique. If the person is close to you, just ask them directly. This way, you'll get a clear answer. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. What's important is that your mind closes the loop of overthinking. Next is should statements. This is when you carry a giant invisible rule book on your head. I should exercise every day. I should never get angry. I should be married by 30. Think of this like a pressure cooker inside your head. When you say I should, you are telling your brain that you're already failing. This word should creates pressure, not motivation. And when you don't follow the rule, you feel guilty. We all think Sachin Tendulkar was always calm and cool, but there was a time in the mid 2000s when he stopped enjoying cricket because he was carrying the weight of the entire nation on his shoulders. Every time he went to bat, he felt I should score a century, and if I don't, I'm letting everyone down. Cricket was no longer a game for him, it had become a heavy job. Then, while recovering from his tennis elbow injury, he played a small practice match, and there were no cameras, no crowds, just him and the bat. And as he started playing like that, he realized how much he had stopped enjoying the game. He realized that to be a god of cricket for everyone else, he had stopped being the boy who loved cricket. So he decided to shift his mindset. He changed it from I have to perform to I get to play. We all have a strict parent inside our heads telling us what we should do and what we should not do. So try this simple trick. Don't say, I have to exercise. That feels like a chore. Say, I get to take care of my body. See the difference? One feels like a punishment and the other feels like a privilege. Number 8, thinking mistake is emotional reasoning. This is when you think, because I feel it, it must be true. For example, I feel like a loser, so I must be a loser. I feel guilty, so I must have done something wrong. I feel scared, so this situation must be dangerous. Your feelings are real, but they're not facts. Think of your emotions like a fire alarm, and when the alarm goes off, it could mean the house is burning, or it could also mean that you've just burnt a toast in the house. Emotional reasoning is when you hear the alarm and immediately you think it's a fire without checking if there is actual smoke. Now I know what you're thinking. What about gut feeling or intuition? Should we just ignore it? This is the biggest trap of emotional reasoning. We confuse anxiety with intuition. There are 3 tests to know if it is anxiety or intuition. Test number 1 is the body scan. Anxiety manifests as physical tension. Your chest feels tight, your heart races, it feels uncomfortable in your body. Intuition manifests as calm certainty. Even if the news is bad, for example, this relationship is over, the feeling in your body is steady and grounded. If it feels like a panic attack, it's anxiety, not intuition. Test number 2 is the sound. Anxiety is loud. It sounds like a nagging voice that asks question like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Are you sure? Check again. It loops over and over again. Intuition is quiet. It doesn't ask questions, it gives statements. It simply says, don't go or this is right. It's a gentle nudge from the inside, not a screaming match. Test number 3 is the urgency trap. Anxiety is urgent. It screams at you to do something right now. It wants you to act immediately to stop the pain. But intuition is patient. It never rushes you. If you're confused between the two, just hit the pause button, wait for 24 hours, and if the feeling changes or fades, it was anxiety. If the feeling remains steady and clear even after a good night's sleep, it is intuition. The golden rule is that intuition protects you from danger while anxiety prevents you from growth. If your feeling is stopping you from doing something good, like an exam or a trip, it is almost certainly emotional reasoning. So, how do we stop trusting the false alarms? You need to separate the weather from the ground. Step 1, the I feel rule. Never say I am, always say I feel. Instead of saying I'm stupid, say I feel stupid right now. This reminds your brain that this is a temporary state, like a passing cloud. Step number 2 is the evidence check. When you feel a strong emotion, ask yourself, what is the evidence? You feel your partner is angry with you? Ask yourself, do I have the evidence? Did they say they're mad? If not, and they're just quiet, it is not an evidence of anger. So remember, feelings are like the weather, they change every few hours. Facts are like the ground, they stay solid. So don't build your house on the weather, build it on the ground. The last one is minimization or ignoring the positives. This is different from mental filtering, which we talked about in the last episode. In mental filtering, you don't see the good. Here you see the good, but you say it doesn't count. For example, you get a promotion at work and you tell yourself, this is just a fluke, or they just gave it to me because no one else was interested, or it was just luck. You reject your own success. You treat compliments like they're fake. Why do we do this? You might think it's just something to do with low confidence or low self esteem, but it's not. It's actually a biological need for safety. Imagine your brain has a core belief which says, I'm just average. Suddenly, someone tells you that you're amazing or you're brilliant. Then your brain goes into panic mode. It says, this data is not matching my core belief. This conflict is called cognitive dissonance. To fix the error and feel comfortable again, your brain deletes the compliment. You say, no, it was just luck. You reject your success to keep your old identity safe. We also do it to protect ourselves. If you admit that I'm a great cook, you create an expectation. Now you have to be great every time. That feels like a pressure, right? So you might minimize it by saying that it's nothing, the recipe was just easy. By lowering the value of your success, you lower the bar for next time. It's like a safety shield against future failure. In our culture, we also have this fear of evil eye or looking arrogant. If you want to fix this, treat compliments like a gift. If I gave you a gift, would you throw it in the dustbin in front of me? That would be rude, right? When you say it was nothing, you're throwing their gift in the bin. So next time, don't explain, don't minimize, just say, thank you, I worked hard for this. Teach your nervous system that it is safe to be seen and to be happy. So, guys, these mind tricks are the invisible chains holding you back. I don't want you to be perfect, I just want you to be aware. The next time you feel that sudden anxiety or guilt, pause and ask yourself, which trick is my brain playing on me right now? Make it a game. Try to spot it in others as well. If you found this video helpful, send it to a friend who worries too much. And remember, you're not your thoughts, you are the one listening to them. See you in the next episode.